And so we clean up the dining table, and she goes to do what 12-year-olds do, and I decide to go check on my husband. When I get into the bedroom, he tells me to sit on the bed. And I remember he sat up, held my hand, and said, "Babe, I have cancer." And my reaction was like, "Who?" He's like, "I have cancer." And I asked him, "What do you mean you have cancer? Like how?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah, they said they found some lesions in the liver, and they're going to do some more tests." And I just remember sitting there and crying. And I felt like I started crying on that day, and I think through that whole journey, I cried every single day. But he was the one that was consoling me, and he's like, "Babe, you and I have been through a lot. Remember with Estelle, everybody said..."
He was very positive.
You know, yeah. And he was like, "We'll make it through." He's like, "We'll be just fine." He's like, and he always would tell me, "You and I make a good team. Remember, you and I make the best team there is. We'll get through this." And so then I asked him, because then at that point, type A kicks in real quick, and I'm like, "So what's the plan?" And he's like, "Well, the oncologist is going to call us. I've got an oncologist referral." You know, and the whole treatment started that. I have a CT scan scheduled for tomorrow. And all I remember asking him is, "Are you going to please take a break and focus on being well?" And he was like, "No, right now there's no reason why I can't work. So no, I am gonna keep doing what I do." Estelle had, she was doing recreational drill. It's kind of like cheerleading, but dance-based. And she had an event the next day. It was like, "We're gonna get up, we're gonna do life like we normally, like we've done it." And so that is how that journey started. Mwangi worked through until Thursday. He passed away on Saturday. Like, he...
Are you kidding me?
Worked every single day. Yes.
Until 2 days before he passed.
Yes. And
so before we go to that place where he passed, you said they were going to do more tests. Okay. What did the tests find?
So, you know, initially the ultrasound just showed the lesions in the liver. They ended up doing a CT scan, and the CT scan was able to show that he had this big mass in his colon. They also scheduled a colonoscopy that kind of confirmed. So they needed to kind of get some of those tissues to be able to do a biopsy. So once the biopsy was done, it did confirm that the source of the cancer was his colon, but that it had metastasized into his liver, and he had a noodle in his lung that looked like there was some cancer growing there as well.
So it was spreading.
Yeah, at this point they staged it at stage 4, and yeah, it was spreading.
Wow. And you're saying he worked till the end?
He worked till the end. Between when he was diagnosed, which was June 8th of 2021, he passed away on August 21st, 2021. So it was not even 10 weeks.
So all of a sudden your life has been turned upside down. You move from doing life with your husband and your daughter to taking care of a sick person, and psychologically your world is just It's all over. Did you share this with family? Did you try to handle it yourself? How did you go through the motions, and what can we learn? Maybe you can share with us what you're comfortable sharing. That maybe somebody who may be going through something like this, what are the do's and don'ts when we are also dealing with people who are going through these types of experiences?
Yeah, so for us, keep in mind there was COVID, right?
Yes.
And so one of the things that we had to do, at least for me, it now became a responsibility to protect my husband. It's almost kind of like a change of events, because Mwangi, for those of you that know him, has always been very protective of me and Estelle. And so as part of that, we had to make some decisions. First couple weeks, you're just dealing. You're trying to come to terms with what you've been dealt, right? It's like you're on this trajectory, everything is fine, and all of a sudden you have to go perpendicular, and you have you didn't see this coming. You kind of don't have a guidebook, right? It's not like that was part of your strategic plan,
right?
And so the first couple weeks was really just the two of us dealing. We did not even tell Estelle what was going on.
Which brings up an important point, because there are people with children who are going through this. Looking back, how do you think, actually I have two questions. At what point did you let Estelle know, and do you think it was the right time?
So about 2 weeks in, it became apparent we needed to let her know what was going on, because as you can imagine, the journey with whether it's chemo or immunotherapy, right? There are certain things we had to change in the house to be able to prepare for that. And at the time, we didn't know whether we were going chemotherapy or whether we were going immunotherapy. But one of the things that was changing was now Mom was constantly taking Dad to the doctor, and
you need to be able to explain.
I needed to explain that, and some of his doctor's appointments were conflicting with her activities. Thankfully, school was over, but we were now starting summer, and so all of a sudden we're putting her in summer camps because she needs to be there. She has a dance camp that she needs to attend, that she has to be picked up at a certain hour, and I can't pick her up. She's being picked up she's being dropped off by the neighbor. One of the things that changed was we felt like she didn't need a phone until she was 13, but now we had to get her a phone because life was just,
you need to
we needed to be able to communicate with her. And so there were certain things that were really changing, that were affected by the situation that we were in, that affected her, and we wanted for her to be able to understand what was going on. So when we had the conversation with Estelle, we just told her Dad has cancer. We decided not to tell her the staging of it, and at the time I have a very smart and very savvy daughter, and so we did not want her to just think this was the end of the world. And like I said, she's very savvy, so one of the questions she asked us is, what stage is it? And we hadn't anticipated that question, so we looked at each other and very quickly said, we don't know.
Did she buy it?
I don't know. I will tell you this. After everything in life happened, she asked me, Mom, how come you and Dad didn't tell me that Dad had stage 4 cancer? And maybe one of the things I would do different is just let her know how things are. And in the same situation, when we had the conversation with her, it was the dad that broke the news to her, but he was very hopeful. We encouraged her along the way, and we're like, this is not a death sentence. The doctors are still very hopeful, and they were. it's not like they had said, oh, you have X days to leave and we weren't telling her. It never came down to that. But I think maybe full disclosure for her
Was important.
was important. After we told Estelle, we then called my mom and dad. And like I said, they will always been our biggest cheerleader. So we let them know what's going on. It's the first time in my life I've seen my dad or had my dad sound defeated.
Wow. As a parent.
As a parent.
It was difficult.
It was very, very difficult. Mwangi lost his mom when he was a teenager. And then dad remarried. And my mother-in-law that I know is actually his stepmom, but you couldn't tell. And so in 2016, we lost my parents-in-law back to back. Like, they left each other within 6-week space.
Oh, wow.
Mom passed in February, and then dad passed in April. So in essence, his parents were my parents.
Yeah.
And so we needed to let mom and dad know before he broke the news to his sisters, because we felt like they needed our support.
Yes.
And the people that were really going to support them were my mom and dad. So we told mom and dad first, and then we FaceTimed or called through WhatsApp video and told the sisters, and his brother as well. And that was hard. And then we actually, before we told even Estelle, we told one couple that is very close to us. And it wasn't even so much that they were close to us. It was purely the one person that you knew would dish it out to you as it is, because that's what he needed at the time. And I share that because some of his very close friends didn't even get a chance to know he was sick. Some of them didn't know he was sick until
He was gone.
he was gone.
Because you said it was only 10 weeks.
It was only 10 weeks. It was during COVID season.
So people are not exactly hanging out with each other.
Right.
Right.
And that's something we also had to control.
So at the time I met you at your friend's house, he was sick.
He was sick.
You carried yourself very well. Because I wouldn't have known. Okay. So you had to keep it private because one, you're dealing with it. And I ask this because sometimes people take offense when they don't find out something. But what they don't realize is you yourself are processing this information. And the less noise you hear, the better. Because different people will start sharing their opinions. And while they may be well-intentioned, it doesn't always come through like that. Did you have any of those types of conversations where you wished you hadn't said anything?
No, because we kept our circle very small. I did have a lot, and to some extent it did cost me some friendships. There are people that felt like they should have known. No, a lot of people have showed us grace and moved on from that, but there are certain people that have a hard time understanding. When we talk about who was Mwangi as a person, Mwangi had a way of just influencing people. His relationships were very personal with everyone. So most of his friends thought they were his best friend. And I'm not trying to say that they were not, but it's hard.
But he had a way of connecting with people.
Yes. Mwangi had many nicknames. And I think that was just his way of just having a personal relationship with people. And so, like, for me, depending on how they referred to him, I could tell, that one grew up with him, or that one knows him during this phase of his life. But even with the people that he grew up with, he maintained those relationships. And so it was hard for people. Some of them still haven't come to the terms that he's gone.
Quite understandably.
Yeah.
It's not easy. So before we move to the next stage, because I want us to talk about now what you decided to do. But before we get into that, looking back, what do you think, or is there anything that could have been done different that maybe would have given him a better chance?
Absolutely.